welcome to another episode of Nerds Amalgamated. This is a very special one. We're talking about Star Wars after the huge release of the Rise of Skywalker. And joining me today, I have Bucky.
Hello.
How's it going, Bucky?
Oh, mate, I'm absolutely fantastic.
And I also have me today is Luke from the legendary Sons of Obiwan Lightsaber Academy.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Oh, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
All right, let's talk Star Wars, gentlemen. Okay. All right, well, let's start off with your first impression. What did you guys think?
I loved it, but I've grown up with Star Wars, and I've seen some of your posts on Facebook, and yeah, I'm an epic, tragic Star Wars fan as well. So,
okay, I might get some raised eyebrows from this. I will say this: when you see it the first time, like when you see it on the screening itself, it's really cool. It was really fun to watch. But and then when it sinks in, you just go, there's something really weird about this movie.
Here we go.
I really struggled with it, right? I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I own a lightsaber school. But, so my girlfriend's not a Star Wars fan, right? She's just so not into it. You know, she met me when I was a DJ, so she likes that side of the creepy, nerdy side. And she sat next to me. We did the red carpet for Last Jedi and for Rise of Skywalker. And the last, half hour of The Last Jedi, I was an absolute emotional wreck. I just loved it so much. I loved Luke. I loved everything about it. Like, the Last Jedi really resonated with me. And the thing I loved about it was that let the old things die. I really, don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars, but that story's been told to get dead. Let's move out into the wider universe and see what else is going on, because that was the driving message of The Last Jedi was let the past die. It's time to let the new generation come in. And in this film, they did the exact opposite of that. It was a complete 180 degree. Instead of letting the past die, here's every single thing you ever loved about the past in a movie.
Yeah,
it was.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so I was gonna say, they just retconned it. It was like damage control, basically.
Yeah, well, I think that's why I had a problem with it, right? Because I unashamedly love the stuff. Like, my three favorite Star Wars properties as of now, are Mandalorian, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi, and they're all Disney output, right? And the amount of crap I have copped for the last 2 years because I was a fan of The Last Jedi is something that is always forefront on my mind because, I'm supposed to act ashamed that I like The Last Jedi. If you, I have a lot of those, oh, you're not a real fan. And I'm like, son, I own a lightsaber school. I'm the most real fan you will ever meet in your life, and I love it.
That's awesome.
I do know. It's something I hit consistently. Like, I have people, it's mansplaining. You know what I mean? Like if you're a real fan, you should hate this. And I'm like, how about you put down $250,000 of your hard-earned money and try and tell me that I'm not a real fan, And so I went into this film, I never go in with expectations, but it felt like they had I intimately know all the problems. I've been just calling them neck. Right, I don't know what the correct term for them. The anti-social justice warrior movement. I don't know what to call them.
I just call them social justice warriors.
Yeah, no. They hate the social justice. These are the ones that are. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but because they're so annoying, I just call them social justice warriors just to annoy them.
The anti-social justice warriors. And so I just saw the movie as a laundry list of all the things the neckbeards didn't like and how JJ fixed it. And so every time a box got ticked, it slapped me in the face and I'd get kicked out of the movie and it'd be like, oh, damn it, that was for the neckbeard. So I admit I haven't seen it a second time. I think it needs another viewing. I just haven't had time. It's been really busy for us. But there's some stuff about it I really love. but there was some stuff I really hit roadblocks on as well. Like really hit roadblocks on.
Yeah. Okay, I will say this. There was some aspects of this movie where you go, no, you did not do what I think you just did.
Are we talking spoilers?
Oh.
Are we just going to get straight into it and warn people?
Yeah, okay, folks, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to get any spoilers, which, let's face it, it's been a couple of weeks and you've probably heard it from people anyway, even though they shouldn't. This will be full of spoilers.
In come the spoiler alarm.
Okay, Chewie getting the medal. When that happened, I went, yay, and then I felt so dirty. I'm like, oh, dude, like they're doing that before, you know. So, I really, there's some stuff in there I loved. I'm not saying like I did my own sort of review on it about a week afterwards, and the first thing I said was, don't expect to hear me say JJ should be hung from a long arm, or don't expect me to say it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm going to give a nuanced response.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for me, the nuanced response is that it is very much. I've found that if you like The Last Jedi, you're going to have problems with this movie, and if you hated The Last Jedi, you're going to love this film because they're philosophically the complete opposite of one another.
But just a question though: do you reckon that the medal that Chewie got was a special one just for him, or the way I looked at it was someone that actually found Han's medal and given it to him because they were so close?
It doesn't matter whose medal it is. It's just, dude, like, oh, you know, like, don't get me wrong. I cheered. I went, yay, Chewie finally got his medal. And then I'm like, oh, they so didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I just felt really conflicted, man. And that's unusual for me because I just love Star Wars for everything it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's like pizza. You know what I mean? Even bad Star Wars is still Star Wars. I mean, you know, I lived through the prequels. I'm old enough to have done all three lots. You know, I saw Star Wars when I was 4 years old, so that was 1981, and fell in love with it. And I did all the prequels at, the cinemas and stuff. You know, midnight sessions. Like these last two are the only ones I haven't done midnight sessions for because I've been at the red carpet. But otherwise, I would have been at midnight. And yeah, I just really left the cinema just feeling not bad, not good, just confused, man. I didn't know how I was feeling, and I couldn't work it out.
Yeah. I like how how we were earlier talking about the Last Jedi and how it was damage control. I like how the relationship between the Last Jedi and how the Rise of Skywalker was damage control. I like how they retconned the whole romance between Finn and Rose. Like in the Last Jedi, they were like they were becoming friends to lovers, and then in the Rise of Skywalker, it was just like, oh, they're just friends. I'm like, what?
Yeah, but you see, even again, like you know how you're talking about the pandering to the social justice warriors. They didn't like her, so what happened? Finn goes, "Come on, we're going on an adventure," and Rose goes, "No, I can't because Princess Leia needs bang on." Like, you know what I mean? They were just roadblocks, man. I'd be into it, and then it would kick me out of the movie, and then it'd take me 5 minutes to get back into it again. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah. No. I actually went and watched it in midnight session with the DJ, and we were sitting there, and I was laughing at different points the whole way through, and making comments. We're laughing to each other, like when they land on the planet looking for the dagger.
Yeah.
And it's like the Burning Man festival.
Totally.
And I was sitting there, I turned to the DJ and I said, here we go, Disney's let the hippies in. We've got the Burning Man festival taking place. the hippies are taking over.
But, it's just, it feels like a lot of box ticking. That's the problem I have with it. It feels like a lot of box ticking.
Yeah, and here's an interesting thing with J.J. Abrams when it came to Star Wars. The whole Millennium Falcon in the beginning, like the whole Millennium Falcon skipping. I'm just thinking to myself, oh my god, is this a Star Trek ripoff?
Yeah, well, to me, I'm just going, oh, God, no. Han Solo, the Force doesn't work that way. Like, we spent our whole lives, you know, like, again, I was really into the extended universe and stuff as well. Yeah. And if you, all of that extended universe stuff is as soon as there's a gravity well, it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, that's a standard thing across all Star Wars. And I'm like, oh, but that's not how it works. That's hang on, you know. I don't know. Like, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying by any stretch that I hated it or thought it was crap. But I just kept hitting these roadblocks that just stuck me, man. So, gentlemen, speak to me. What were your favourite parts?
Ooh, my favorite part would be when they had to go to the planet to get 3PO's memory hacked, and when they revealed Poe's history as a spy stealer, and the gang was like, "You're a spy stealer? You were a spy stealer? I didn't know that."
I've always had a love of the droids. So for myself, it was actually R2D2, BB-8, and the new little droid,
Dio, Ronnie James Dio. Yeah.
When Dio's there and he's meeting people and he's like, no, and they're like, no, he's okay, he's a friend, and it's just like R2D2 sits there and they help fix him up and all that, and he's still got that hesitant attitude, but you can see he's been an abused droid, but he's sitting in with his friends, and R2D2's there like the ancient warrior that's standing guard over him and keeping him safe, kind of thing. Like, because as far as droids go, R2D2, he's Yoda,
absolutely,
because he's been there since the beginning, and so we don't know how old he is, but he was around before the very first movie.
Well, I don't know how much you know about sort of movie theory, right? But you know how I said a minute ago that George Lucas was the Quentin Tarantino of the 70s, right?
Yeah.
The thing about, he was really good at stealing stuff from other people, just as Tarantino is now, right? Mm-hmm. So there's an old Japanese film called Yojimbo, right? And the whole movie is seen from the perspective of two dudes, a tall dude and a short, skinny dude. And that's who R2 and 3PO are.
Yeah.
Right? And so what's, you know, like I was talking to someone the other day and I was saying that the best Star Wars are the ones, like, the one probably problem with The Last Jedi is that it was really, everyone was separated, right? And 3PO and Chewbacca are the ones that observe and sort of do a running commentary on what's going on. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, when that doesn't happen, when they're not around, it feels weird because they're giving the every person reaction. Like 3PO is so self-involved. You know, he's like, oh, me. I believe this is our, you know. Whereas R2 is the one that actually gives you a genuine reaction to stuff.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You know, and so then when you don't have them around, I find that it doesn't work quite as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree. Like, R2, I love dearly. Man, I love Rey, man. I love that character. She's my favourite character in Star Wars. Like, don't get me wrong, partially it's a carnal thing. Like, I really love Daisy Ridley. But I love the way she portrays stuff. So for me, like, my favourite stuff was the Rey Kylo stuff. And the combat. It's the best lightsaber combat that has ever been in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, but see, that's the fault of guys like yourself, where you're running schools, and when you think back, like 1977, when they did A New Hope, they had a fencing instructor and a Aikido instructor was his mate who was trying to give him tips as well, and it was just nobody knew what it was supposed to be, and they were trying to come up with all these styles. They were trying to go for a cross between French fencing and Japanese samurai.
Yeah, totally.
And you had, like, some of the fight scenes were fairly good, and you can see the French fencing style from when Obiwan and Darth face off against each other. It's the classic stance of on guard.
Absolutely. But you see, that's why the fighting in those movies isn't as good as some of the later ones. Fencing's really boring to watch. I don't know if you've ever watched fencing. You know, like what I mean by that, it's a very technical sport. And if you don't know what the techniques being used are, it's like watching MMA. If you don't know anything about martial arts, MMA is two men violently hugging for 20 minutes on the floor. You know what I mean? Yep. But if you know technique, you go, oh, there goes that hand, he's coming round. It's a whole different experience. And what I found really interesting about the new one is that they've slowed it all down and made it so that people can see it and understand it.
Yeah.
You know, like they were the slowest performed fights in the Star Wars universe, but they were really, really good to watch because you could actually follow the action and work out what was going on and all that sort of stuff. And it was just awesome. Like, I loved it. Loved it.
You see, it's also like the choreography of it was like not just slower, it was more fluid and it was its own language instead of. But
you see, that's because it's slower. Like, okay, so for those of you who don't know what the Suns is, we're a theatre combat school. So we teach people to fight the way they fight the movies, right? And everyone believes that sword fighting should be really fast, but it shouldn't be because when it's fast, you don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So what I found is with our fights, I constantly have to slow them down, you know, because it's so easy to be like, whoa, check out how fast I am doing that. Yeah. I don't know. Is this a PG rated show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't use that enough. It's so rushed and need to get it done that you miss the beauty of it. You know what I mean? It needs to be slowed down so you can see that beauty for what it is.
Yeah, I think I know the analogy you want to use there, and it's something I've heard before for a lot of things. I'm guessing you're going to say the one where a good porn scene isn't actually good sex. What looks good on porn isn't enjoyable for the actors. I heard that from an old engineer I worked with, and he said when you're doing welding, it's like a porn scene. A good porn scene looks good, but it feels terrible. When you're doing welding.
The way I explain it, it's like a 16-year-old when they have their first time. They're so excited, they just smash through and get it done, and afterwards they go, oh, right, that's it.
What do I do with the other 45 seconds for this minute?
That's it. A good sword fight is seduction. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So I did my training with Cole Rawling, who was a fight choreographer for Star Wars Eps 2 and 3, right?
Yeah.
He's who I learned how to do theatre combat on. And the thing is that a fight should tell a story. And the problem is people get so locked up in technique that they lose track of the story. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so what happens is when it's slowed down, it's like if I was teaching you Shakespeare and I was reading it like this, to be or not to be, that is a question we must ask. You're not going to get the nuance, are you? But if you go to be or not to be, that is the question. Like, do you get what I mean?
Yep.
So if you rush it, you don't get to enjoy the flavour of it. Whereas those fights were really good. You could see the strikes coming and you'd know what was going to happen. You'd see him dodge at the last minute. And I really dug that aspect of it. Man. Really dug that aspect of it.
Yeah, like the thing I was getting at there is it's the Star Wars lightsaber fight is now its own language kind of thing, whereas previously it was a bastardization of the French fencing and the Japanese samurai and a few other bits and pieces in there just to confuse it even more.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like I actually did fencing in high school, and our master was actually he went through the academy over in Canada with the guy who was the choreographer for A Princess Bride.
Oh God, that's the greatest movie fight of all time.
Yeah,
I love that fight.
And he said the exact same thing as what you were saying just then. A good fencing match is different to what a good choreographed scene is. A good choreographed scene is at like 1/10 of the speed at its fastest for what a fencing match should be. Because when you do a proper fencing match, it's boom, it's lightning quick. But when you see a good proper choreographed scene, you sit there and you're like, oh yeah, I can see what they're doing. Wow, that's actually really cool.
So that Princess Bride fight, right?
Yeah.
You think about the first 20 seconds. It's literally like strike, dodge.
Yep.
Then they'll have a pause. And then strike, dodge. Stop. Strike, parry, strike. Stop. So what it is, it allows you to sink into the fight. Does that make sense? As opposed to just being, ah! That's why John Wick's choreography is so good. It's fast, but it's clean, so you can see what's happening. Because the problem is, so talking from a choreography point of view, right? I hate watching Western movies because what they do is it's too expensive for them to insure the actors to learn to fight properly. So what they do is they use a lot of cuts to hide the fact. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then if you go and watch something like a Jackie Chan film, right? Those boys will spend 6 months doing all the fights before filming even starts. So they can do a longer run without a cut. So that therefore makes it easier for everyone to see what's going on.
Yep. And everyone involved in it has got to have had years of training before they even set foot on the set.
That's exactly right. Yeah. You know, because the reason the John Wick movies are so good was that Keanu got hooked on Kung Fu when he was doing Matrix.
Yep.
So he's continued training for years and years and years and years and years. And then all he's done is just put it into what he's doing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so good watching those films, is because they're lovingly put together. And like, have you seen the videos of Keanu training to do them?
Yeah.
Like weapons ranges and stuff?
Oh, yeah. They're insane.
And the sad thing there is...
that's the training the cops do.
Yeah, but the sad thing is they only show like the smallest part of it.
Yeah.
They don't acknowledge the fact that he's there from before the sun's up to well after the sun's gone down, doing that over and over and over again. Like there was one of the videos you can see he's wearing gloves, and then they cut from one scene to the next. And if you look really closely, you can actually see he's actually got something white coming out from under the glove. He's actually had to have his finger bandaged because he was getting blisters.
Yep.
Because he'd been pulling the triggers that much for so many months. By the time they actually filmed the John Wick movie, he actually had calluses on his finger.
Yep. Well, you know that Princess Bride fight? The boys train 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 months to do that fight.
Yep.
That's the amount of training you need to do proper theatre comedy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And, you know, these days, you know, like, I found it really interesting watching Game of Thrones, because when you start watching Game of Thrones, no one has any idea how to use a weapon, right? But by season 7, someone like, there's this one random scene, right, where I nearly smacked my girlfriend in the face, where Jon Snow, when he's facing the zombie hordes, when they attack Winterfell, right? There's this 1 second where he does this perfectly timed swing, because a longsword's a heavy weapon, so all the movements have to be circular. And he does this perfect technique, accelerate for a strike to cut someone in half. And I was like, because I've only seen that in the movie like 2 or 3 times. I know that because I have that action, because I use a weapon every day. You know, like, I live by the sword now. I teach 20, 30 hours a week in nothing but weapons training. So I really intimately know what everything should and shouldn't look like. And when I see something the way it should look like, I lose my mind. I just love it. Absolutely love it.
I sorry to interrupt, gentlemen, but I got a question for you. Would you say fight choreographies now, in terms of lightsabers and stuff, they're trying to be like boxing in a sense?
Okay, so the lightsaber combat, right? So there's sort of 2 ways to look at this, right? Most guys are doing 1999 lightsaber combat work, so it's very heavily influenced by, it's longsword with a lot of kung fu in it, right? Because that was the last time we had really, really good fighting, right? But it's not becoming boxing. What sword combat is becoming is that people think sword combat's just using a sword, right? It's not. You use whatever you got. Your headbutt, you use elbows, shoulder strikes, blocks, grapples. That's what makes a fight look real. You know, if you're fighting with a weapon, you don't both stand, unless you're a fencer. If you're doing a ritualized form of fighting like kendo or fencing or something like that, you have your distances and you move along your line and that sort of stuff. But the fighting they're trying to portray is life or death. And in life or death, if I need to punch someone in the groin and then gouge an eye out to win the fight, that's what I have to do. Does that make sense? So it's not that it's becoming like boxing. I think what it is it's more of a fight choreography is becoming more realistic. like the stuff we teach, man, we're teaching knife fighting now and tomahawk and knife, and because for the next 3 years we're not going to see any lightsabers. But look at that fighting in The Mandalorian, man. That's all knives, like I sort of jumped the curve a bit and I wanted to make sure I was going to be ahead of the game. But you're going to see a lot more of that using the whole body rather than just focusing on the weapon. And
a lot of that, it's like I'm an absolute tragic for a good fight scene. So I grew up watching Star Wars, but I also grew up watching Jackie Chan and all that because
absolutely, man. The Friday night SBS Kung Fu.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is an absolute master, and he's always he's one of those guys that he always says, "What I do, I've trained my entire life to do, and this is who I am." And it doesn't matter whether he's doing a stunt or whatever. And they always show the outtakes and I remember seeing an interview where he said he wants people to understand that it doesn't matter whether you're the best in the world. Things will always go wrong.
Absolutely.
And even if you've got professionals who are at the top of their game, things can go wrong and you will be hurt.
Everyone's human and everyone has an off day. That's the first thing we teach at the temple. You suck. You're never going to be perfect. Doesn't matter, especially in this day and age where all people see the Instagram photos, they think everyone's life is perfect all the time. And that there could not be further from the truth.
So
that's absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, have you seen Rumble in the Bronx where Jackie Chan gets smacked in the head with a pinball machine and he breaks his leg on Rumble in the Bronx? And
he still finished off the movie. Yeah, didn't you know that he broke his leg and when he's jumping onto the hovercraft at the end there, his leg's actually in a cast, and he actually fell in the water. He fell in the water 17 times during that scene. And they ended up having to replace the cast so they could actually finish that scene. And when they replaced it, he actually said, "Can you do it with a fiberglass cast?"
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sick and tired of having to get this replaced.
He did the rest of the movie with a fiberglass cast on with a zip-up rubber shoe over the top.
Yeah. His whole everything was changed to suit that. And that says the quality of the actors involved. So when you're saying with the fight scenes where it's... So everyone... Yeah, you were saying the static... on a line fighting.
Yeah.
And that was one problem I always had with when I was doing fencing. Because I also did boxing and a bit of Tai Chi.
Yeah.
So it's literally you're moving in a square, it's 3-dimensional. You move to put the person you're in their blind spot, so you got more strike capabilities.
Yep.
And I thought, well, hang on, no, fencing's about you're there to skewer the other person, you're there to stick 3 foot of steel through their gut.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter what sort of sword you're using.
Yeah,
I'm going to come to you on your blind side. And we used to have different games. We used to actually have a thing where you'd actually go around. You have to challenge each other with the Anoya Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. Yeah. And we used to do that. I used to get in trouble because I'd always move to the person's offside.
Yeah,
and then I would skewer them under their armpit, sort of thing. And everyone would get upset because I was coming into an area where they couldn't see me. And even the master hated it because I could move into his blind spot so quickly. And I'm 6'4", 6'5", and not a small target, but I could move.
6 cubed. I hear exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
So a lot of the fight scenes I'm seeing in Star Wars now with how they're doing that, they're moving so that it's actually you watch it and you go, okay, they actually got someone who's actually paid attention. They've got the John Woo school of martial art choreography coming through where they're moving into the blind spots. They're doing what someone who's an actual fighter would do.
You see, people are better educated today, right? So if you watch the original Karate Kid, that's all Kung Fu and Tai Chi. As long as it looks martial arty, it's a martial art. Whereas now, MMA has explained fighting to a lot of people. So that's what I'm finding really interesting doing choreography now is you've got to make it make sense from a tactical as opposed to... So movie fighting for the first 70 years was, that looks cool, we'll do it, right? Have you ever seen that stripper photo of Obiwan and Anakin fighting and Anakin does that straight block behind his back?
Yes.
Yeah, and then someone's photoshopped it to make it look like he's on a stripper pole, right?
Yep.
That block, right, is a totally impractical block for that style of fighting. But Bob, not Bob, who was the stunt coordinator? I'm having a blank.
I can't remember.
Anyway, he loved that block, so he put it in, right? But whereas you and I now would go, that's a dumb block, because we're better educated now. Like, they didn't have to worry about what the crowd knew before now. So you've got to start making fights heaps more realistic,
Yeah.
You know, and that's sort of the way it's going.
And just for anyone out there that's listening who's trying to work out why we're saying that block was totally unrealistic and stupid, trying to do a block like that, it looks pretty, but the reality is that you've got no leverage to stop your own sword being pushed into your back.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, like, even if you stop the first blow, all the person has to do is just lean into it and push your sword into you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's what we're talking about. Like, that's why it's... And the thing is that you and I mean, like, I'm not a martial arts professional by any stretch. I've done my fair share over the years, but I'm not exactly a professional, but I can still sit there and talk like a professional and tell you exactly what is right and what is wrong with any particular thing. And that's something you've got to take into account now. You know, like, you watch especially my favourite one I show my students is show them the Obiwan Qui-Gon Maul fight. And that's everyone's absolute favourite fight, because it's got the staff and it's two people. And then you get them to look at where they're aiming their attacks at. And they're always aimed to attack above the person's head as a safety thing. And once you see that, they're attacking the weapon, not the person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And once you see that, that ruins that fight for you. But then it makes you appreciate the Act 3 fight so much more, because the first thing Kyle did in all his choreography is, I want to make sure it looks like they're about to get hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what people look for today. You know, that's where cinema crowds are.
Mm-hmm. I think we're kind of straying off from the whole fight, from Star Wars to fight choreography. But can we also?
That's the main thing with Star Wars, though, is that action fight scene is like, you got the story, but without the actual fight scenes, it's only just half the measure, and that evolution of the fight scenes into the Force Awakens, or what was the last one?
Last Jedi.
But yeah, when we look at the fight scenes in there, and you compare it to the original, it's the evolution. Like, even the gun battles, it's becoming more realistic, where in the first one, the good guys almost never miss their targets.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's becoming more realistic. Like, you don't just pop out from cover and you're sighting your target and hitting it, hiding behind a crate at 50 yards away or whatever. That just doesn't happen. Like, guys who are professional soldiers aren't necessarily going to be doing that.
World championship pistol shooter, and he's happy if he goes 70% on a day.
And he's not jumping out of cover to hit a moving target.
No one's shooting at him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a big difference when they and that's that. Yeah. So that's we got, like, we're showing the appreciation for where that's come through for that. That's probably where we've gone there. So
yeah. So let's talk about the characters in The Last Jedi and how they're interesting as well. Like Rey, for example, her story in this entire movie was an interesting one. Would you say,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love her storyline, man. I really, because Luke was always a whiny bitch. Always has been. You know, like, I love Luke. My name is Luke. Like, I dig Luke. But Luke was always, do I have to go to Tashi Station? You know, like, Rey's just a battler from the start, man. You know, and I love her. I love Rey. Kylo as well, man. My favourites were Rey, Kylo, and Jonas Sunas, the guy that's playing Chewbacca. I didn't think anyone would ever fill Peter Mayhew's shoes, and he is doing an amazing job of Chewbacca. Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Speaking of Rey and Kylo, I like how they kept some aspects of The Last Jedi into this one as well, especially the I wouldn't call it the talks they have.
Oh, the force typing.
Yeah, the force talks. Like, I know where you are, right? Yeah, and I like the twist they had in the middle of the film where they reveal that she's Palpatine's daughter and you're like granddaughter, and you're like, you're kidding me.
Yes, but even so, like talking about hitting roadblocks, man, I am happy to float with the best plot armor, not sure what's going on type thing, right? But the way they just go, Emperor's alive, and I'm like, okay, rock on. You're like, you know what I mean? Like that, I really, it's not like Phasma who was put in a garbage compactor and was back for the second one. You know what I mean? Like, he was thrown down a shaft, there was a massive explosion from him dying, and then the whole thing exploded. How the hell did he survive that? I hit a real roadblock on that. Real roadblock on that.
Oh, yeah. And then it turns out he was cloned, apparently.
But you see, that to me sounds like someone going, oh shit, someone has a problem with that. Oh, he's cloned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Real problem. As I said, like, dug it, but I had some real problems with it, man.
Yeah. Okay, I will say, there was one question me and Bucky were asking as we were coming out of the movie. So, is Rey a Sith or a Jedi? Because if you think about it, Palpatine said, like, if you kill him, she will be a Sith, and she killed him.
But no. See, you asked the question. Don't drag me in on that. You were the one asking the question.
Yeah, I asked the question,
and my answer was no, she didn't.
Is she though?
But
I mean, no.
But you see, okay, then the question I've got for you is, why did the Emperor want her to strike him down? Why did the Emperor want to be struck down? That's the question you've got to ask yourself first, right? Now, the reason he wanted her to strike him down so that he could inhabit her body.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he did that. It's got nothing to do with who's a Sith and who's a Jedi or anything like that, because the whole point, like, even I think they're doing the same thing in The Mandalorian at the moment with Baby Yoda, right? No one is innately good or innately bad. That was always, George Lucas loved telling a black and white simple story because he grew up on Western. You have the white hat and you have the black hat. It's really easy to tell who's who, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the actual world is a multitude of shades of grey, right? And so what happens with that is that it's not whether she's light or dark. She just is, because you've got to remember that Sith and Jedi are philosophies, right? They're not. It's like saying one's a Catholic and one's a Buddhist, right? It's a belief system that people follow. That doesn't make them light or dark. That's how the Jedi view, right? The Force isn't light or dark. The Force is neutral, and how the person uses it decides whether they go to the light side or the dark side. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, that's why she's stepping away from that, because you don't need to be light side or dark side. Don't get me wrong, I'm a wonderful person. I volunteer my time to help kids with special needs. That makes me light side, but I do some dark side shit too. Humans are not inherently good or inherently bad, and that's the flaw they were trying to point out. That was why the Jedi failed, because they tried to make it a black and white issue when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, they cancel all attachment because attachments are bad. Attachments are the reasons people die 95% of the time. It can be a good thing, but it depends on how it's used.
Yeah, that was a more in-depth response than what I gave to DJ at the time. I was well, no, she's neither. She's Rey. And she didn't kill him. He killed himself because he struck at her, and she just blocked to defend herself.
Yep.
And it's kind of like a guy with a gun and shoots a bullet. Like, you have where they're in the compactor in Return of the Jedi, and they shoot the blaster and it's bouncing off the walls of the compactor. Now, if you shoot yourself there, you're killing yourself. You're not killed by the compactor.
Well, it's like that old NRA adage: guns don't kill people, people kill people. Guns are not inherently evil. It's like guns can be used to defend someone, and it's a very good thing. But guns can also be used to rob a store, which is a very bad thing. You know, it's not. We've got to start focusing on the Force, more the person behind the Force. You know, that's why I love the fact that they're going towards this Grey Jedi thing. Like, again, talking about copping crap, I've been a Grey Jedi my whole life because I don't subscribe to any view. I have my own view. That's who I am psychologically as a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always loved it. And everyone's grey. Oh, you're grey because you can't make up your mind. And it's like, no, what it is it's understanding is the world is not a black and white play. Never has been, never will be. You know, Trump's a horrible person and he's done some horrible stuff, but I'm sure there's some stuff he's done in between there that is good, but people just don't want to recognise it. I'm not pro-Trump by any stretch, but no one is inherently evil outside of maybe Hitler and Stalin. They were pretty horrible people. But, you know, not everyone, it's not a black and white issue, and that's the problem. That's the problem with society today is everyone is black or white. You know, as I said to you, it's all about nuance. You know, everyone is, this is the greatest movie ever filmed, or it's a steaming pile of crap. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's somewhere in between. There's some bits I loved, there's some bits I didn't. Yeah. That's long. Yeah. But everyone's like, but it's not like Star Wars. And I'm like, you don't own Star Wars.
All right. Okay, so let's continue on with the characters. Finn's journey in this movie, that was a very interesting journey.
I think he just got left behind. There was too much other stuff going on.
It was literally... They were it was like trying to put the Hobbit movie into one movie wouldn't work. They had to put that into 3 movies. This is 3 movies that have been pushed into one, really. Like, there was just so much going on and so much that had to be explored.
And he had a lot of loose ends to tie up as well. Like, JJ had a lot of loose ends to tie up.
There's like, as we're talking before we started recording, I was saying, like, there's so many cracks there that can be exploited for further movies as part of the franchise. If Disney decides to whip it to death, or even spin-offs. Like, there's so much we can see with Finn where he can have his own spin-off into all his universe aspects and his life. You can see that he's going to be one of those interesting characters that's going to go somewhere, and you're going to want to watch it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you were saying about like the unfinished statement of when he thought they were going to die, and he wanted to say something to Rey. Yeah, everyone just assumes it was he wants to say "I love you" and profess his undying love. It might be thank you. You've given my life so much more meaning. Everyone
You're the sister I always wanted.
Yeah, like,
why does everyone want to have to share?
Yeah, it's like everyone's just assuming it's this one thing, but there's so many nuances there, and you can see the depth of that character allowing that to happen. Like, you can see him turning around and going, thank you, my life actually has a direction now because of meeting you and you pushing me to become who I am, and you've helped me do this. And like, honestly, they got the similar scene in Lethal Weapon 2, I think it is, where they got the bomb on the toilet, and they look at each other, and he's just like, and Murdoch looks at Riggs and goes, Riggs, and Riggs looks up and he goes, yeah, I know, it's cool.
Yeah,
and it's like it's just this unspoken commentary of thank you. You're like, life's been so much better. It's not this, oh, I love you. Like, I'm sorry, but social justice warriors and the black and white brigade can just go stick their head back into whatever orifice they've got it in, because they're stealing oxygen that could be better used.
But you've also got to remember that that's the fault of Hollywood, man, because that's the trope. It's always the woman who wants a man. Like, why? Like, everyone's like, it's such a shame that Rey finished up by herself. And I'm like, more power to you. You know, having a boyfriend or a girlfriend doesn't make you a better or worse person. But in the movies, the girl's got to have the boyfriend and all that. And I'm like, you rock on, sister. You found your own path that works for you. You know, cool.
And so there was also one point there was theories and talk about Poe and Finn, I think it was.
Yeah, being gay.
Like there was talk. Oh, because they hugged and they were excited to see each other. They're in love.
I hug my mates. I haven't seen my boys for a while. We always give each other a hug. That doesn't mean I want to sleep with them.
Yeah, but you also go look at some of the guys who are the biggest and meanest, baddest guys on the planet. You go put them through a massive battle scene. At the end of it, they always turn around and they'll always give each other a handshake at the very least. That you may not see if you ever are unfortunate enough to see a group of SAS boys at the end of a battle situation. They may not go up and give each other a hug, but I'm pretty sure they're giving each other a handshake or a slap on the back or something like that, even if it's only mentally.
Do not need a battle to have a hug, man. I used to drink with some SAS boys. Because they're brothers, they've been through the crap together, so they give each other a good hug all the time, and it doesn't mean a thing.
Yeah, well, it's as you said, they're brothers. You go in a situation like that, and that's all that represents. People are trying to dictate what the relationship is going to be, and it's like, can't you just enjoy the story? Like, why do you have to try and dictate and add all this extra underlying meaning of it? Like, they've just come out of fighting for their lives, and they've survived. It's like, and they thought each other were dead at one point. Of course, they're going to go, "Crikey, man, you're alive! Oh, well done."
Mm-hmm. All right, we should continue on, guys. So Poe's journey. Poe, well, he had a good say role in this film. Like, they explored a lot of things about Poe in this movie,
but only lightly. Once again,
I love Poe in The Last Jedi, man, because I love that, because he was being taught that just because you're the hero doesn't mean you can run off and do whatever you want. There's often plans and things in motion. So I love his story arc, going from being the guy that just wants to kill everything to becoming the guy that becomes a team player and joins it. I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
But it's also, once again, they've only explored, like, by exposing that past of being a spice pirate.
Yeah.
I can see them exploring, like, him becoming more like Han Solo.
Yep.
And Lando Calrissian. So you could actually see Poe and Finn having their own spin-off movie franchise where they go out and they do the Han Solo and Lando Calrissian thing. And you could see all that happening. And you could see Finn sitting there looking at Poe going, hey, no, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like being the moral compass in some ways, but yeah, like, there's just so many nuances that could go there, because we saw so much more, but it left so many questions hanging that you want to see answered now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'm really like he's. I think the problem is that they were trying. It was a 4-hour movie that went through 2 hours. You know what I mean? Like, like I've said this to a lot of people, I really didn't feel emotionally invested in this. I think it was just so fast you didn't get a chance. Like, yeah, his character arc was pretty cool, but it's still, he just went, I'm a flyboy, I do whatever I want. And then next movie, bang, I'm a responsible dude. You know what I mean? Like, there hasn't been, like, you look at Captain America swearing for the first time. He's earned that. We've had 7 films of Mind Your Language, so you can see that he's starting to go a bit grey when he swears in the movie. And he's earned that right to swear. Do you understand what I mean? Because it's been that backstory and build-up. And I think that's a problem, because the films jumped so hard in story and philosophy and all that sort of thing, that the character arcs were as good as they could have been with what they had. But it's still really hard as well, because nothing was really earned. It was just everything was given to them, because we didn't have the 3 movies to really get attached to the characters. Because you think about it, Poe's missing for most of the first movie. And then in the second movie, Rey's off by herself. And, I think Rey is such a good character because she had all of that time building her character with Mark Hamill, who was an absolute master.
Yeah.
And that's and I think that's going to be the problem I'm going to have with the movie, is that I didn't really, with a lot of those other characters, like, I felt it really hard with Daisy and Adam, but I think with a lot of the other people, they didn't have the chance to develop the character so that we could get into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So moving along. Kylo Ren. Boy, he had another interesting arc. Like, he shifted so much from a villain to an anti-hero to a villain again, then to an anti-hero again.
But it's kind of like the Anakin Skywalker Darth Vader thing, where it's you can see he's chasing this ideal, and it's, as Luke said, he's actually more of a grey Jedi, because he can see there's so much more that it's from the dark side that can be done, and there's the Order and all of that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it warts at him with the lighter side of his being, where he's like, but no. And yeah, that's something that all the way through with Kylo, it's one of those things that comes through.
Yeah. You know, as I said, like the guys I really felt for and got involved with were both Adam, like Kylo and Rey. I think Adam Driver did a phenomenal job, you know, I think in the years to come, he's really going to end up being, people are really going to appreciate what he, absolutely. You know, he's just, given all the problems they've had with storylines and characters and arcs and all that sort of thing, he's done an absolutely sterling job to become who he is, you know what I mean, within that character, because it's, you know, they haven't had a lot of direction through, you know, they've been too busy. You know, everyone's been chasing their tails, but I think he did amazing in that role. Absolutely amazing.
I've read some forums that they were theorizing that Kylo is now Kylo and Rey are now cousins, apparently.
That depends on whether you believe in it depends on whether Palpatine was Anakin's dad through the Force. Like, because there was a comic that came out a little while ago that showed Palpatine hugging Shmi as she was pregnant, like a Force ghost of him hugging her. Because the problem is that in the Legends canon, Anakin Skywalker, in the normal canon, he is a virgin birth, right? Because Shmi says there was no father, right? So there was a book called, which one was it? Was it the Palpatine one? No, Darth Plagueis. And it talks about how they were doing a Sith ritual that allowed them to create life using midichlorians, and that's supposedly how Anakin came to be. So that theoretically means that he is Palpatine, he is Vader's dad, which makes him Kylo's great-grandfather, and that if she's a Palpatine, that's her dad. So yeah, technically it's auntie and uncle. It's Game of Thrones. It's Khaleesi and Jon Snow.
Oh.
Yeah. But it depends on whether or not you believe that, you know, giving birth through the Force stuff.
Oh, that's so weird.
So okay. Yeah, like there's so much more going on there, but based on what you see in the movies, though, no, she's adopted into the family, so she's maybe a stepsister, but it's also like recognizing where, because Rey's another grey Jedi, it's like it's not you're not good, you're not bad, it's you, and it's what you do and how you behave defines who you are.
In canon, they're called a Force dyad, is the official term for it now.
Okay.
Which means they're two halves of one. So that's the official terminology they use, I think, in the visual compendium, the Rise of Skywalker visual compendium.
Okay.
But so that's why they were able to Force Skype and stuff, because they're through the Force, they're two parts of the one being. So that's why they were able to do all that stuff together. And that's why when he gives up his life for her, they go from being a dyad to being one complete person. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Which is kind of, okay, now that you mentioned all the Force abilities, this one was really weird with the Force abilities. Like, you had it basically just turned every Jedi to Jesus, basically. Like, yes, you can now automatically heal characters, and
Kenobi does it in Star Wars, sir.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not everyone.
And he puts his hand on him and brings him round. Now, I guarantee you he had a severe cranial trauma being hit by one of those things, but he brought him round. So if you want to get technical, it's been in there since Star Wars.
Ah.
And the other thing is, and they actually touch on it, where they talk about how Rey's a Palpatine because she's doing the lightning that brings down the dropship.
Yeah.
Yep. And from a
not every Jedi has the same abilities. It changes from one person to the next.
Yeah.
That's why the Skywalkers were unusual, because they could do all of them. You know, go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of dropships and stuff, I take it you and I take it most of us here was been pretty shocked when they go, they didn't kill Chewie, did they? If that's the way Chewie's gonna go, that's the worst way possible. Initially, then
I was gutted.
Oh yeah,
I knew it.
I was in there. I was in the cinema. I was like, no, and we were in a packed cinema. Like there was literally like only like 1 or 2 seats that were left empty for the midnight screening, and there's a little bit of hum and buzz the whole way through where people are enjoying it and commenting quietly to each other and laughing and all that sort of stuff. And then when the dropship was destroyed, everyone in the entire place, it was just like dead silent. Everyone was just like, no, you can't kill Chewie. It's kind of like if they blew up R2D2, it would be the same sort of thing. It was just like, no, you can't do this. No.
Yeah.
Because
I really I didn't even think it was a problem. I was like, there was no way. Like they didn't have the build up to give him the send off. I knew they wouldn't. I knew in my heart they wouldn't send him up that cheap.
Yeah, that I was like, luckily they didn't do it. Like, oh, thank God they didn't do it.
But I mean, again, talking about getting thrown out of the movie, it was like that. Oh, there was a second dropship. Yeah. So anyway, let's continue. And I'm like, it felt a bit cheap. Really felt.
Yeah,
cheap.
it was pretty. I was like, oh, you mongrel, how dare you do that? Like we're all sitting there heart in our mouth going, no, not Chewie. And then you do this, and it's just like, haha.
I'll tell you the most emotional part of the movie for me was Chewie's howl when he found out Leia was dead.
Oh,
I choked up on that. I was like, oh, dude.
Yeah. It was. You see, that's the thing. There wasn't enough exploration of the relationship between Leia and Chewie over the years, and because they ignore the fact that Chewie was friends with Yoda.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and that's not something that's discussed enough in the movies. Like it's touched on lightly, and if you go look through the books, there's a few books there where they actually talk about Chewie and Yoda doing missions together, and Yoda being almost adopted into the family sort of thing because he spent so much time with all the Wookiees.
Well, his walking. That's made out of kashyyyk wood. You know, the special wood, all the trees, Vorkshire trees, or whatever they are.
Yeah.
It was a gift from the Wookiee.
Yeah. And see, that's something that's not discussed enough and brought out. Like the relationship between Yoda and the Wookiees, considering the fact that Yoda was supposedly over 650 years old.
He was 900 at the end.
Yeah. And you look at Chewbacca, the Wookiees and because they still haven't even told us what race Yoda is. He's just Yoda. Yeah. They're two extremely long-lived races. So I reckon if you sit there and you're looking at everyone else dying, you're going, well, it's kind of painful getting to know you because you're going to be dead in 70 years. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do with the next 700 years of my life? Like, why am I going to waste my time getting too close and personal with you when the big hairy ape over here is going to be living for at least 350 to 500 years? I can have a good relationship with him.
I saw a meme the other day that was saying that Yoda and the Mandalorian. Oh no, actually no, Chewbacca and Han Solo. Chewbacca is just Han Solo's third door.
Yeah,
like life length wise, it's the same as having a dog. You know, it's great, but it's not there your whole life.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised. And this is something I can't remember where I heard it, and Chewbacca could show up in the Mandalorian at some point because the longevity aspect of it, he's likely to still be alive, and because there was the relationship between Chewbacca and the Wookiees with Yoda, he would be drawn to him eventually. So that while the child's only 50 years old, he's
we should be sitting down and having a chat about the Mandalorian. It's the last episode's tonight. What's today's Friday, isn't it?
Yep.
Last episode tonight. Oh, and if you want to talk about the Star Wars series, there are some ending Star Wars series and about that show.
So yeah, like
Yoda's a dark side clone. He had no problems force choking that chick the other night.
But then again, it was because she was threatening the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And he's still coming to grips with who he is. But see, that's the thing. Yoda, in some of the stories, he used the Force to push people aside and everything like that. So the Force choke, once again, it's the same as throwing a punch. It doesn't matter whether it's not good or evil of itself. It's just a fighting technique.
Absolutely. So, I reckon Yoda can talk. I reckon Yoda is well aware of what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just, because you think about it, everyone that comes in contact with him loves him. Right?
Yes.
He's just Jedi mind tricking his way around the galaxy. That's my call. I reckon at the end of it, he's going to go, "What's up?" Then we'll be off and running. Dude, 50 years old. He's had time to develop and do his thing. So man, I reckon he's going to pop up and start rapping.
Speaking of cheap moments, what do you guys thought about? My biggest one was how when Palpatine's final order destroyed the spice pirate planet, and then all of a sudden, and Poe was like, "Oh my god, everyone that I knew in that planet died," and all of a sudden, oh no, wait, they're back, they're alive again.
But what they weren't destroying, they were attacking it and searching. Did they actually destroy the planet?
Yeah, they did. It was the one of the cannons.
That's
right.
I'm
pretty sure one of the. But you see, this is the problem with the movie, is because it goes so quick, you don't know what's happening. Like, that's what I found. Like, I had real problems sort of following it, and I've noticed it different people. Like, did you see Wedge in there?
Yeah, I did. A short second. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he was on there for nigh on 2 seconds. But, I know a lot of people that had no idea that was Wedge. They didn't even name check him. He was just a face that, it's like they just wanted to pay minimum scale for the day. So he just popped up and then it was done and move on.
Yeah.
Just very rushed. You just didn't get a chance to explore anything.
There was I will say there was so many callbacks to like the trilogy, to all the trilogy, to the OT, the OT, the prequels, and even the new one. Yeah, there was so many callbacks.
Oh, absolutely. But that's JJ's speciality. That's why they got him back on board to, tie up all the loose ends and fan service everything that could be fan service. Like I think, did we talk about Chewie's medal beforehand, or did we talk about it in here?
No, we'll talk about it during the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that did my head in. Because, as I said, I was excited about that for half a second, and then I just felt, well, that was cheap, man. That was a cheap little bit of fan service,
Yeah.
Okay. How about what about that moment? Okay. Yeah, I think we're kind of veering off here. Okay, what about that moment with Kylo Ren and Han Solo after the fight?
Didn't like that. Like, that hit me in the face. Like, I was, what the hell? What's he doing here? Damn it! Like, that really knocked me out of the film, man. Really knocked me. Like, I swore. Like, what the F's this? What the F's going on? Like, it just came out of nowhere, and there was no warning it was going to happen. Like, even if they'd had his voice first, and then he appeared, I would have been cool with that. Just sort of smacked you in the face, and out he came.
Yeah. It was also the same case with Luke, and when he came out, it's like, oh yes, everything is close within you, and then Rey finds that Wayfinder, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, she finds it so immediately. I'm like, what? How? That's so weird.
See, I loved Luke coming out of the fire. I thought, like, how we were talking about the stuff, JJ moments in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Him walking out and catching the saber that Ryan threw away. I thought that was a good little dig.
Yep.
Because remember, Rey throws it away like Luke did, but Luke walks out of the fire and catches it and hands it back to her.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
But it was also there was, like, after the movie before, like when Luke he turns into pure Force energy. Everyone was like, "Oh, Luke's dead." No, he's become one with the Force. And like, this is, I've had so many arguments with people about this, and I mean, like, Yeah, the DJ and I were almost coming to blows at one point where he kept saying, "Oh no, Luke's dead. Luke's dead." I'm like, "No, he's not. He's just done a Yoda and an Obi-Wan. He's become one with the Force."
But you see, that was confusing because how about Leia? She just magically becomes one with the Force, and they go, "Oh, you need to help Ben," but we don't know how because you're talking about the Solo moment. Apparently, that was supposed to be Carrie that had that conversation. Yeah. But because she was dead, she couldn't do it, and that's why they had to put Han in there. But that again, that was brutal. That just nowhere.
Okay, let's go. Let's speed up to the climax of the movie when Rey confronts Palpatine. Oh, this one was really interesting.
But is that the climax of the movie though? Because
not really the climax, but the lead up to the climax. So
okay, so where are you going?
Okay, so like how Rey finally meets Palpatine, and Palpatine saying, "Strike me down," and then he says, "If you don't strike me down, your friends will die. Your friends won't die." And
if you strike me down, your friends won't die. If you do, they won't. If you don't strike me down, your friends are going to die. If you do strike me down, they won't. We can keep them alive.
Yeah. And I like how he's showing her the image of them struggling in the the fighters struggling. I'm just thinking to myself, this is sort of like the whole Endor scene where it's like, oh, I don't know whether your friends know that the shield generators are operational.
But that's typical. Yeah. That's standard Palpatine move. It's the line that he's gone through before. And if he's a clone, there's minimal amount of his own. Like, there's going to be minimal difference because the same thing again. Yoda became one with the Force, and so did Obi-Wan. And that, why can't the dark side do the same? So
because the in-universe thing is because they're not. You have to be at peace to be able to do it, and because Sith. Also, because you've got to remember the whole point of being a Sith is you want to live forever. You know what I mean? Like you want to keep going, which is the exact opposite of becoming one with the Force is. That's why on a spiritual level they could never do it because you have to be calm and at peace. And both Sith die angry, because they live angry.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing that people haven't actually appreciated. So therefore, the Palpatine persona, if he's a clone, is only part a recording of that personality.
No. It depends on whether you. So if you go, like, have you read all of the old school ones, like Timothy Zahn and all those ones?
No,
like the old
not all of them.
Right. So in those, he kept coming back because there's a thing called force transfer that they can do, which means that when they die, like that's how the Emperor came back in the original Dark Empire comic. Is that he had clones scattered all around the galaxy. So it's like having a blank copy of your physical self and you force transfer the essence over. So when they go over, it's the original person.
Yeah, but okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know. I get that part. But here's the thing. If you're going to get a clone made of yourself, wouldn't you have it so that it's a perfectly formed clone?
But you see, again, that depends on... Because again, in the comics, like this is the problem with them cribbing from the EU. Because when they crib from the EU, you don't know if it's a direct crib or their version of it.
Yep.
Right? Is that over time, clone bodies apparently are way more susceptible to the dark side decay than what a normal body is.
Okay.
And that's why I had the problem with it. You look at him; he's all crusty. Is that from the explosion, or is that from dark side corruption? I think that's... I don't normally pick on plot points, but that was something that really struck me. I'm like, so is that the original one and he's hanging on to life? What's going on?
Yeah, that was the thing I was struggling with as well, because if that was the original one, there would have been a lot more going on that made sense, but there would have been a lot more that he would have been doing as well.
Yeah.
Because he would have been a lot more powerful than what we expected. So, and he would have been able to drain life from... He wouldn't have had to just drain it from his own child. He could have drained it from anyone.
That's correct, yeah.
So, therefore, once again, he should have still been nigh on perfectly healthy. He wouldn't have been hanging off of a giant robotic arm, keeping him alive while his body was falling apart, and then he had to drain Rey and Kylo to heal himself. He could have been healing himself previously off of slaves that they stole from wherever.
Like the Gelflings in the Dark Crystal.
Yeah. Like, there's the questions there where there's that just surrounding that whole thing. It's just, I
just need help. Like, that's why I was so confused with it. Like, I'm not one of those people that picks up on plot points. You know, like, I'll sit down and discuss. Like, I did my university degree in popular culture. I did history and English through popular culture. So when I watch a film, I watch it once as a fan, and then I watch it as a text. Do you get what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this one made me watch it as a text from the beginning, and I want to still have that sort of fun. But interestingly enough, a good mate of mine is a Lucasfilm artist. He's worked for Lucasfilm for 30 years. His name's Mark Ratz. And he hated The Last Jedi, but absolutely loved it because it was all of the fun. Like, he doesn't look at it as deeply as I do. So if you don't look at it as deeply as I do, it's a fun, rollicking adventure. But once you start looking into it, there's plot holes and stuff the size of the Grand Canyon, you know. So, I'll be. Look, I didn't hate it, but I really think I need to watch it a second time. I didn't go in with expectations. It's not like I went, this is not the movie I was expecting. It just took a lot of left turns that really, really messed with me.
It's overall, like, especially in that last scene, like the big, like, the only truly unanswered questions were the ones surrounding the Emperor, and Kylo giving his energy to heal Rey.
Yeah,
that actually fitted, and the fact that when he did that, his body disappeared, and so did Leia's. They're both at peace. He's accepted and become at peace, and he's become one with the Force. Leia's at peace because he's come back to being her son and being what she wanted him to be. Yeah. So any angst that she had has gone.
Yeah.
So like this, like everything in that was perfectly summed up, and it fits with everything else, with all the canon and everything. They're at peace. They've become one with the Force. So when you see the scene where Rey's burying the lightsabers, and you see Leia and Luke standing there shoulder to shoulder, smiling, and she gives the name as Rey Skywalker.
Yeah.
Like, that fits. Like, she's chosen, she's going to do good, but she's not the light side or the dark side. She's
just her.
Going. She's me, sort of thing. And it's just like, you look at it and you just go, yeah, that's great. And that fits so well with everything. From the very beginning, there was George Lucas was very black and white, but I think we've discussed it in the normal podcast where we say about the fact that George Lucas's wife and a number of other people came in and told him to shut up because he was being a fool, and helped rescue the series because he was going too far in one way, and his wife's come in and other people have come in and they've said, no, don't do this, do this. And that's the moments that have been pivotal to the success.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was it was George Lucas's wife, who was doing the editing of the movie. So she managed to save most of the movie from a horrible mess to a manageable movie to watch.
Well, it's not just that. It wasn't just her. There was other people involved as well. Like
Hanson and all those guys did the same thing too. George Lucas is a great ideas man, but he's horrible at execution.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the greatest film of the original trilogy was Empire, which was the one he had the least to do with.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, George Lucas in one of his early interviews credited a lot of the success for A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back to his director of cameras and a couple of those guys, because he would come up with the idea and they would make it work. And he would sit there and he'd be going, oh, no, I want this. And they're like, yeah, hang on. Just shut up and let us do our thing. And then you can look at it and you'll be happy. And then they'll go and do their thing, and then he'd be sitting there looking at it and he'd go, oh, damn, that's actually good. The
prequels are untouched George Lucas. Do you get what I mean? Like, because George Lucas on them was at the point where he didn't have to say anything. You know, like no one would stop him. Like when I was training with Kyle, he was telling me that every day the Ewan and Hayden were going to George, going, man, don't do this. That's not what the character would do. And George would go, shut up, I'm the director. Do it this way. Because the prequels was George's way of playing around with special effects. That's what it was. To George Lucas was a special effects trilogy. He wanted to see how far he could push digital special effects. So he didn't really give a shit about storyline. He didn't really give a shit about dialogue. It was about trying to create exactly what he wanted. You know what I mean? And to see how far he could push the digital stuff. That's what the trilogy was for George. You know, which is a shame, but you know, like that's why you look at how wooden. Like George has never been a good dialogue ever.
Yeah.
You know, but his creativity and his ability to get that story started are absolutely outstanding. You know, but he needs to write it and then step back and let someone else do the work. And
it's kind of like I think it was Mussolini had one of his best mates the whole time would argue with him, and while he was around, Mussolini was successful. But after he got rid of him, things just went wrong. And George Lucas is the same.
You always need someone to challenge. You know, absolute power corrupts absolute. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem for a lot of those movies was just the director has to respect and encourage the people around them to call them out on their stuff.
Yes, totally, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we've rambled on long enough. I think.
I think we covered a lot of big stuff. Yeah, like I mean, what's the only question we have left is what's the future of Star Wars now that the Skywalker trilogy is ended? I mean,
well,
Baby Yoda.
Although here's an interesting. Here's the other interesting thing with it though, the whole that scene with Billy D. Williams and the girl saying like, "Hey, would you like to know who you are?" And I'm going, okay, that's that's going to be another trilogy on its own.
He was. I couldn't work out because apparently that's his daughter, according to the Rise of Skywalker Visual Dictionary. That's apparently his daughter because he lost a daughter around the same time that he spoke.
Oh, okay.
So the way he said it made him sound like a creepy old uncle. And that really disturbed me. Really disturbed me.
Oh.
But like the direction. Well, we've also said apart from Baby Yoda, there's the Finn and Poe. They've got a whole universe they can explore now, and if you read the books, there's so much more. The Mandalorian has opened the doors to the Bounty Hunters Guild, which there's so many books written about that. You've got the warlords now that were previously stormtroopers and imperial governors and all that have got troops around them, and the New Order, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's so many different plots, but the way that they to explore it is the way that the Mandalorian's been done in a TV series more than just movies, because there's so much more that has to be done in depth. As we said, there's so much in the movie that you're looking at, and it's just barely skimming the surface of the story, especially for Finn and Poe. And it's like you could have an entire series just looking into one or the other, or both of them going off, and just the adventures they can have.
Yeah, I really think they're just getting the movie done to get the movie done, and I think that's why they've got Favreau on for The Mandalorian. I think they're just going to start rebuilding the galaxy from The Mandalorian outwards, and I think that will be the beginning of the Disney Star Wars cinematic universe. The problem is, the biggest problem Disney had is they listened to the fans, but the problem is the fans don't know what they want, right? So they make F7 and they go, let's make F7. Oh, I want it to be just like Star Wars. I love Star Wars. And then they went, no, this sucks. It's too much like Star Wars. And they went, all right, Merry Christmas. Here's Rian Johnson. The exact opposite of the last film. I don't like that. That's changed it too much. Do you get what I mean? So the problem with doing the 9 is that people are emotionally invested in those characters, so you're never going to make them happy. Why is Baby Yoda the greatest thing ever? Because we never knew who wanted him until he appeared on screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you get what I mean? You've got to develop new emotional bonds for people to snuggle up to, and I think that's what they're going to do. Just let the old things die. You know, that's the end of the trilogy. I don't think we'll be seeing Rey or Poe back anytime soon.
No. They said, I think I did really report Rey, Rey, Poe, and Finn. Their journeys are over. That's what they said. The actors themselves. Yeah,
that's what I mean. So I just think we'll just kick off in the new one, and it'll be all exciting and new, and then we'll work on it. I really think the way it's going.
Yep. Anything else?
And we can still end up with a Wookiee joining Baby Yoda.
Dude, that would be awesome. I just want to watch hours and hours and hours of Baby Yoda. I love Baby Yoda. I love him. I love him the way I love my daughter.
I reckon we need more Baby Yodas in Queensland because the way he eats frogs, I can see the cane toad epidemic becoming number one.
Okay. So, anything else to add in before we wrap it up?
No, I'm pretty happy with that. I think we covered everything.
Yep. As always, remember to take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and stay hydrated. And if you see a fiery, buy them a cold drink and say thank you.
So yeah, that's it for today. Hope to see you on our regular scheduled podcasts. Also, thank you, Luke, for
absolute pleasure.
Where can they find you, Luke?
www.sonsofobiwan.com or Facebook Sons of Obi-Wan AU, Instagram Sons of Obi-Wan.
Awesome. We'll attach all these addresses we'll attach all the details on our show notes. Anyways, see you guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Happy New Year.
Oh yeah.
Take care.
Take care.